Welcome to the Rising Entrepreneurs Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and their journey. Now, let's get started with the show.
All right, welcome. John Corcoran here. I am the co-host of this show. And for those of you who haven't listened to this program before, check out our archives. We've got some great interviews with past smart CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs of all kinds of companies. And I'm also the co-founder of Rise 25, where we help connect B2B business owners to their ideal prospects. And this episode, of course, brought to you by EO San Francisco. EO San Francisco is part of Entrepreneurs Organization, which is a global peer-to-peer network of more than 16,000 influential business owners with 200 chapters, about 60 plus countries. If you're a founder, co-founder, owner, or controlling shareholder of a company generating over $1 million a year in revenue, and if you want to connect with other like-minded successful entrepreneurs, EO is really a great fit for you. EO San Francisco chapter enables leading entrepreneurs in the Bay Area to learn, grow, and achieve greater success. It was founded in 1991. We have over 100 members in all kinds of different industries. And you can learn more about how it works at eonetwork.org/San Francisco. And my guest here today is Renzo Luján. He is a managing director at First Republic Bank, which is one of our partners for the chapter here. And I can also say he is my banker because we recently opened an account with First Republic. So I can speak personally as to what that experience was like. And I have to say, unlike working with many other banks, you'll be really impressed. So we'll talk about that. But first, Renzo, pleasure to have you here today. And I want to dive into your background. I love hearing people's stories, their backstories. You actually came here to the United States. You were born in Peru, and your parents left because there was a new president that was elected. There wasn't a lot of jobs, wasn't a lot of economic opportunity. And now here you are in the United States, obviously for a long time, working with businesses, helping them to get ahead. And I'm always fascinated to hear that perspective and what that's like for you. But first of all, what was it like growing up in an immigrant family, first generation family in here in San Francisco in the Bay Area?
Yeah. Well, hi, John. Thank you for having me. So we were, I was born in Peru. We came here. I was 8 years old. My two parents, and I have two older brothers. I'm the youngest of three. I would say, looking back, my dad had to work, 2 to 3 jobs sometimes, for a long time in order to support us. My mom was a stay-at-home wife, and then, she obviously helped raise us. We always laugh that she was always very overprotective, but then my dad wasn't home because he was working a lot, right? So he missed a lot of events, right? So because of that. So, but kind of being able to see that and being able to appreciate that now, not at the time, if anything, kind of looking back, some of the things that I think about are, all the hard work that he put in to be able to get us to, brothers to where we are now, which we are all, feel like we're doing well in our separate fields. But growing up, if anything, was was definitely interesting.
It's definitely makes you appreciate how much, especially when you become a parent. I know you're a parent as well. Once you become a parent, you appreciate what your parents put in for you, not just leaving the country they know to a new foreign place, getting a new job, working multiple jobs. I mean, it's hard to do all that. What drove you towards banking? Was there anything internal, anything that like was in your upbringing that drew you towards that as a field?
I always thought, I thought the suit was cool, when I when I was a teenager, and my mom's like, always when I was looking at different things to do, then the same thing. My mom kind of pushed it because, oh, you get, it's a professional, you get to wear the suit. And then so I got into banking. I started with Washington Mutual when I was 19. So this was 2003. And I just was something that I enjoy doing. I love working with people. I love helping people try to become better, helping in any way that I can. And I was with WAMU for about 4 years. Then I was with Citibank for about 2 years after that. And then I got recruited the First Republic in 2009, which, looking back is probably one of the best phone calls that I've received because I've been there, 14 years now, and the culture of the bank really fits my own values.
Yeah, and I want to dive into that a bit because um, First Republic is one of these banks that for years I've heard people say good things about them. I just hear different people recommending different banks, and people who were First Republic clients, customers would be like, "Oh, it's best. You got to, got to check it out." And of course, moving banks is a hassle, right? And so it's something that people put off all the time. What is it about the culture of First Republic? Because we were joking beforehand. Their ambition is not to be another Chase. You don't want to be another Wells Fargo.
And it's funny. I laugh when you say that because one thing I hear a lot when I get new clients or referrals, and people like, my friends say they love the bank, and I've never heard anyone say they love their bank before. So we want to hear what all the buzz is about.
No, never.
I would say a big part of it's when I talk about the culture, it really is, what does the client want and helping them get there, right? So I've been to other banks before. I've been and I've seen it where it's about pushing products. It's about, making goals. With First Republic, it really is do the right thing and the business will just come, right? And I think our one of our board, Jim Herbert, who was our one of our founders, our founder and CEO, prior CEO, he said, "We're a service company. We just happen to be a bank."
Mm.
So I think that's one of the things that we kind of all, and when you get hired at First Republic, it's kind of strange. You go through like 7 or 8 interviews. It's kind of a process, and I think the
Wow.
reason for that, we just want to make sure that that you have the right mindset, right? Because sometimes people come over from other banks and have a much different mindset, and to undo the other big bank
Yeah.
set, sometimes it takes a little bit because it's definitely a different type of culture.
Well, that's what I found so interesting, and I'll tell my story. So the way that we finally set up a First Republic account was that it had been months. We were with a large national bank that everyone's heard of. It'd been months. We'd been sending messages to someone who was supposed to be our private banker. They wouldn't respond. We'd realized a few weeks had gone by. We'd send another email because they hadn't responded to the previous email. And then it got to the point where it was like, I needed to sign something. They needed a wet signature version, which I'm a former lawyer and I can't stand that term because there's no security whatsoever to this wet signature thing. But people just know it and they think like, oh, if you sign it in blue ink, somehow that's more secure. And then we go and we sign up with First Republic, and I signed my documents on my phone using DocuSign at 6 o'clock on a Friday. And you also emailed me back the next day on Saturday. And I was like, this is a different experience.
And that's the thing. I think, like I said, I love what I do, right? It really makes me happy to do what I've been doing. And I think, after 14 years doing a lot of things, it's hard to kind of just, not necessarily be excited about it. So I think, I love, I value the relationships that I build. I value my clients. A lot of my clients are my friends. And I don't really see this as a job, but like a career, and me helping people get to where they want to be. But I think just overall, it's just we try to make it. We know people are busy. We're trying to make it as simple as humanly possible. And one of the things that's awesome about the bank, there's a lot of empowerment. So if the system doesn't work, they want to hear what we have to say as far as improving the process. I've actually been involved in 2 big procedural changes for the bank because there's a whole portal specifically for ideas.
Mm.
So there is
That's pretty innovative for a bank to have that. And another interesting thing is that, I think for a number of years, going back 10, 12 years, as technology was adopted, people started moving towards online only banks that you could use any ATM, but you didn't really have a relationship with any banker or anything like that. First Republic's gone the opposite direction. You have a team that's in a local office. One thing I think that's interesting is when I email with you, you have other people CC'd on there, and there's other team members that can respond, can help with various different issues. Like it could be like resetting a password, but you don't get routed to, oh, you need to call this 800 number and wait on hold for 45 minutes just to get that one issue resolved, which is just such a nice relief for that. But when the pandemic hit, it all of a sudden became, oh, it's actually, there's a real benefit to having a relationship with a banker for things like the PPP that came through.
And that's the thing. So I think, the technology is important, right? We want it to be convenient to be able to do our day to day. But I think for a while, prior to the pandemic, um, or during the pandemic hit, rather, people realized that it was, along with the technology, it's also important to have a relationship, right? A lot of people had a tough time just getting to talk to anyone, finding out where the heck they were as far as the PPP process. Um, and if you speak to anyone that went through that process with First Republic, you know, having that point of contact really put a lot of, tensions at ease. And if anything, we gained a lot of business from after that process because clients, people talked and they said that First Republic was able to, to kind of help them, and we processed. And we didn't have an SBA lending program prior to that, and we built one over the weekend because we wanted to make sure that all our clients were taken care of, and we, all 11,000 applications or so, we were able to take care of, which was
That's amazing. To be able to pivot like that during a pandemic is incredible.
people working overtime, people working weekends. The bank like knew it was a need, so they were, paying these good bonuses for people that were going to work on this. And talking about people getting emails over the weekend, people were getting, from New York, emails at midnight going to the CC. It was a lot of work. But in the end, I think we're all happy that we were able to help our clients.
Yeah. Now, one thing I know you care a lot about, which relates to banking, is financial literacy and understanding finances. Part of this is motivated by, we were talking beforehand, your father's CPA passed away, and so you got into helping him with filing his taxes, and you kind of saw firsthand how a lack of financial literacy can hurt you in the case of your father. You want to tell that story?
Yeah, yeah. So, as you mentioned, my dad's CPA passed away, and then me being the banker, my dad's like, "Oh, can you do my taxes?" But it was just for taxes. He's been at the post office for a long time, 20 years, a little over 20 years. But when doing that paperwork, that's when, I saw his W-2s, and I was like, "Holy moly!" He's like, you're getting over 40K a year or so." Then I was like, "How?" Then I was thinking back, right? How were you making that, supporting a family of, five and three kids? I never felt like, like we struggled, but how did we not, considering, and then I looked closer, and then he was paying around 800 and some change for medical. And I was like, why is it so high? So we got that changed. But even then, because of that lack of knowledge that was happening, then that was less money he was able to put to a 401k, which is why he's retiring actually in 1 month, but I have to wait till the age of 70, right? So something we definitely would have wanted him to do earlier, but that kind of just got me thinking and really passionate about financial literacy. So, a few years ago, the bank also opened up for folks to be able to start employee resource groups. So, I was one of the founders for First Republic's Latino, Latina, Latinx employee resource group. And one of our pillars is financial literacy, both internally and externally. Internally, because not everybody is a banker at a bank. You have IT, you have marketing, you have HR, you have people in different sectors that want to know what to do when they retire. Not everybody, was born here. Not everybody just has that education. And then externally, whereas with our communities, with a lot of our nonprofit clients, we lead some financial literacy courses for ages for as little as young as middle school, elementary school, and for sometimes for the parents, just basic um, banking and credit and things like that.
It's funny. I earlier in my career worked in politics, and I was a lawyer, and I used to joke that I'm going to round up my career by working for the IRS, all the most hated professions, right? And it's nice to see someone that's taking an industry and a company that's taking an industry like banking that doesn't have a good reputation, but injecting into it some life and really working on doing your best in order to perform good service, I guess. So thanks for your time, Renzo. Where can people go to connect with you and learn more about what you guys do?
Well, everyone can always email me, rlujan@firstrepublic.com. It's RLUJAN at firstrepublic.com, or even shoot me a text or give me a call. 650-787-1298 is my phone number.
Did you just hear that? The banker said, text me. That's just amazing. Blows my mind.
You can't text me about banking specific stuff, no account numbers, but you can text me.
Just to connect, at least initially, right? I would be concerned if someone's sending your account number. But shout out to Nicole McKenzie, a member of our chapter, who I remember specifically in one of our forums, someone had asked about banking, and she just raved about you guys. So I want to give her credit where credit is due. So Renzo, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Rising Entrepreneurs Podcast. This episode is powered by Rise 25. Please subscribe and check out future episodes.